Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Collective Clicks podcast. This is your host, Brandon Bateman, and today is another episode in our series with Aaron and Michaela Gaunt from Southern California, who used PPC to generate 7 figures in revenue in their first year using the marketing channel and expanding their company nationally across the United States. I asked them what they think the biggest contributor to their success was, and recruiting was something that Aaron brought up repeatedly. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what their processes look like internally for finding and keeping the best talent so that they can grow their business. Aaron, Miquella, I'm super excited to talk with you guys about some of the stuff that you've been doing the most over the past year that you weren't doing before then.
Yeah.
And on this topic, I remember when we were talking, we were planning this, figuring out what we're going to do. This is the thing that you were like, we got to talk about this. We have to do a video on this because I care about this the most. Like this is what this is what's making the difference for us. And I couldn't agree more. I think of like recruiting, culture, leadership. It's like if you have that skill, you can get any other skill on your team, right? It's like the Trump skill. Yeah. You just need that one, and then you've got everything else that you could ever imagine you need in your company.
100%.
And at some point, that's all you do. So anyways, I'm super excited to dive into it. So let's talk about, I think the easiest way to break this down is let's just talk about like the whole talent development process, what that looks like. Everything from like, we're like looking for people to we're onboarding them, we're training, improving them, we're helping build like that long-term employee-employer kind of relationship and helping them level up, stay motivated over time, all those kinds of things. I'd love to just kind of like talk through that piece to piece and learn what you guys are doing to get the kind of performance in your team that you have today.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot has changed because a year ago, one of these people was here.
Yeah.
And both of you. Miquella, I'm assuming you can't fire Aaron. Aaron, I don't know if you could fire
Miquella.
Miquella.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
I told me he's not allowed.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so that's the one that's like a no-no, but otherwise it seems so you both have been here for a minute, but outside of that, things cycle a little bit. So yeah, let's talk from the beginning, like finding talent. What are the things that you found most successful? I'm sure it really depends on the role.
Yeah. No, man. Well, it was funny. You're right. We did have that phone call, and it's something I've been geeking out about is recruitment. And you could already in our last couple conversations, depending on if this video comes out first or last, you'll see bits and pieces of us talking about recruiting, and it has everything to do with hiring a great team. I think, and I also mentioned that a lot of gurus don't talk about it. Right, and I say gurus on whoever sells you a course.
Well, it's not usually what you need to get from point A to point B, but it is what you need to get from B to C.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I'm sure it sounds like was your journey.
Yep.
Because for a minute the game was, can I be good at acquisitions? Can I be good at marketing? Can I be good at dispositions?
Yeah. No, 100%. I would say recruiting is your number one most important thing to get you from B to C, as you put it. Because if you want to build a team, you gotta be able to recruit. You gotta be able to produce leads like you do for your wholesale business or your whatever business you have. You create leads, you create sales, et cetera. But with recruiting, you got to be able to create leads as well. It's its own position in itself. Now, at this moment, what I do is I recruit, right? And like I said, I have it on my board here. My ultimate job as a business owner is to be a mentor, a coach, and always recruiting. People like to throw that out there, always be recruiting, right? Well, what does that actually mean? What is actually always? It means having a marketing spend set aside for recruiting every single month, right? Headhunting, right? A lot of people in our industry have, and this is something actually, a piece of advice that somebody told us in the very beginning is, look for wholesalers who are looking to start and do their own wholesale business, right? And I found out that's not the most efficient and best way to do that.
I've heard a lot of horror stories.
Yeah,
that start exactly
and it's not the reason why you think. It's not because I'm afraid that they're going to start their own business. I give 2 craps if you start your own business. Good for you. I can care less, right? Because it's not going to ever affect my own business and my family. But it's just more. I think it's just more the type of the person. If they couldn't succeed at wholesaling as well, I mean, why would they? Why do I think they're going to succeed here? Now,
Well, the position isn't for wholesalers. The position is for sales, and
Right.
that's what you have to focus on. Not do they know the industry, do they know sales, and
For sure.
are they a salesperson?
For sure. And so we're looking for salespeople. We're looking for top talent, top A players. You know, because obviously our industry can be taught. You can come from any sales background, and this can be taught. So what we do is right now. So like I said, we're looking for 2 acquisition people right now, and not saying that wholesalers that want to be a part of a team can't be a part of a team, right? I still give them a chance. I just tell them that you need to go through our normal recruiting process, which is do it. So we have a process, and what happens is, so let's say a lead, and I'll get to like what we spend on Indeed. We go from Indeed, LinkedIn. We use Wise Hire off and on, and I'm in the middle of looking for some other things. But what I did when I said, okay, I need to master recruiting. What? So I went down like a rabbit hole, like of YouTube videos, Google, talk to friends, talk to current recruiters. Like I said, how can I get in the mindset of because obviously it's its own position. How can I get in the mindset of a recruiter? Because I can't bring a recruiter on if I don't know how to train them on what we're looking for. So obviously I got to
What standard to hold them to?
Exactly. So I got to master that position myself because that will be a position we do bring in where they're constantly headhunting for good salespeople. But in the meantime, that is me. My wife does help me with like giving me opinions and stuff like that on people I bring through on. But what they do is, so the best place we begin the most leads from is Indeed. So I'll put a marketing spend on there. Obviously, you got your own job ads, et cetera. And I do split test. So like, hey, what titles are bringing in the most leads? And so obviously, so we'll look at that. I have an admin that will reach out to them. So our virtual assistant, she's been with us for 2 years now. She's a rock star. So anyway, she reaches out to every single individual. They will set up a link, or they'll book a slot, and they do a thing called a pre-screen. Why do we do that? Because I don't want to sit around waiting for a bunch of people for no-shows, right? So we have a whole spreadsheet.
Yes.
Dude, I'm good at spreadsheets, baby.
Yeah,
so I'm just
I can tell you learned the skills.
I'm just kidding. So we'd put on a spreadsheet, right, and of all the candidates, different time slots, and if you ever want my spreadsheet on how we recruit, reach out to me, because it has every single slot from did you make it to the pre-screen, did you make a second interview, did you make it a shadow day, and did you obviously get hired, and I track that. It's part of my stoplight report as well. So we want to see how many candidates we're getting, how many second interviews are there, how many shows were there, right, and how many hires did we make.
So sales funnel.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so anyways, do the pre-screen, and then she asks them a simple couple questions, right?
The same like 3 or 4 questions each time?
3 to 4 questions. And so there are a few things where we're looking out for just in the pre-screen, because at the end of the day, I got a spreadsheet full of Zoom links, right, of all the shows, right? So it would be like 20 pre-screens for the day. There'll be a bunch of Zoom links, so I get to watch their Zoom link of answering these 4 questions. And it could literally take me 30 seconds to a minute on if it's yes or no, right? I don't need to watch the whole 4 minutes of them answering the question, because I'm just looking for a couple things. How intelligent do I think they are? Did they dress up? Did they actually present? Did they know how to use the Zoom link? And then so already, if they obviously look presentable, they sound pretty fluent, then I'll listen to their answers. And if I like their answers, then I click a yes onto it. My admin sees that I want to talk to them. We set them up for a second interview. My second interview is another 5 to 10 minutes, just to dig a little deeper on like, hey, is this something that you want to do? It gives me now the chance to talk to them, right? I know they're serious. I know they show up, so I don't need to like waste time on a bunch of no-shows. So we go through the second interview, and then if I like them there, and it still denies, right? Because I'll really qualify them, ask them qualifying questions, right?
Deeper questions,
right? Is this something, what are you looking for in your next job, right? Can you see yourself at an office 8 to 5 on the desk going through leads? You know what I mean? How much money are you looking to make, right? Really, is this a job that is going to set up to your expectations, right? So anyways, if I can find yes, then they go in for a shadow day. That shadow day has been amazing on really bringing in good candidates.
I do that too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And So they get to come in, and because what we want to see is, do they want to attach their trailer to this moving train, right? It's a time. I tell them it's a time for you to see, is this a place you want to be? Because I'm selling you as much as you're selling me, you know. So it's like, you can't just, as a business owner, you can't just think of these people of like, oh, they just need to come to and be a part of my business, right? You ever hear that hiring technique where they say, send me a 5-second video of you explaining XYZ? I'm sorry, but A players are not going to spend their time sending you a bunch of videos. You know why? Because they don't have time for that. Because they're getting recruited by other people, or like you said earlier, they're already hired, right? So you need to have a head hunting mentality. You need to understand that top level people also have about 5 other job offers. So again, it's speed to lead with these people too. When you find a good candidate, it's speed. So anyway, so they come in for the interview. They get to sit next to one of our acquisition reps. They sit in our morning high huddle, and also by sitting in our acquisition rep too, it's an interview in itself. So my acquisition guy or disposition person, they'll see, are they taking notes? Are they asking good questions? Are they being attentive? Are they on their phone scrolling? Right. So there's a lot that goes into that kind of stuff, right?
We had one guy day trading.
Yeah, he had day trading, and he said,
while shadowing our acquisition people, he was day trading.
And yeah, and you need to be able to ask hard questions. You need to be able to make good decisions, and then you just say, "Get out of here!" Right? Like, they do something like, "Get out of here." Okay, this is not gonna be a good fit, right?
You'll stop the shadow day after an hour and just kick them out.
The shadow day is only really an hour and a half.
2 hours.
Yeah.
It's from 8 to 10.
Yeah.
What's the shortest shadow day someone's had before you kicked them out?
Probably 30 minutes.
Okay, so someone comes in for half an hour and you're just like, no.
Yeah, so a guy comes in and he already had like this trucking job already lined up and set up, and so we go in. So he sits in the morning high puddle. He shadows one of our acquisition reps. Then he comes to the conference room to do the role play exercise, and he basically just right at the bat, I was like, hey, is this something you want to do? You know, is this And you just got to be blunt with them. Hey, I'm not feeling it. I don't feel like this is something, and then they'll say, yeah, and perfect. And I'll just shake their hand. Because what you want to do is it's kind of like talking to a seller, right? You want to pull back. If they're serious, they're like, no, I want to be here. I want to interview for this job. I want this position, right? Anyway, so that's probably short. You just got to be able to fill them out.
Sales.
Right? Exactly. It's sales.
Yeah, my personal opinion is far too many companies with recruiting, they just treat it like, I'm filtering.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
And here's the difference. In sales, if you do it like that, you won't ever get closed business. In recruiting, you'll still get people.
Right.
They just won't be the right people.
Yep.
Because the right people aren't attracted to that kind of thing. So something I've been talking with my team a lot about recently, like recruiting and sales. Like we have to have to like attract these people, because the biggest risk in recruiting is that you attract the wrong person.
Yeah.
And because it's like you could always find someone to hire.
We say it all the time. It's easy to fill the seats. It's hard to find the right person.
Yeah. Because one bad hire can cause some serious damage to a company.
Yeah. Well, I've been there. You don't have to tell me twice. Well, apparently I have to learn the experience many times.
And obviously the good thing about failing forward, about getting bad hires, and is make sure you just learn from your mistakes. Because the cool thing is by my bad hires, I know what to look out for. So here's another one. So during my shadow day, I thought this chick, I was like, she's gonna be a rock star. I was telling everybody on the team, hey, she's coming in for a shadow day. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. I think she's gonna be like a good, solid person, right? Comes in for the shadow day. She shadows the person. She comes in. It's always like, I find out when we do the role play exercise. So we do the role play exercise, and what happens is she shuts down. And when I say role play exercise, I know we didn't talk about that yet, is I'll bring them into the conference room. I talk to them a little bit more about what they're looking for. Then we'll do a quick role play exercise, because there's a whole bunch of email templates that I send out in between all this.
Yeah.
And one of them is like, hey, this is the house. This is how much you got to ask for. These are some questions that we're going to be saying. So you got to prepare yourself, right? And what I wanted, so basically, I'm the seller, you're a prospect. I'm not giving you like a script. I just want to see how you handle. How are you able to talk and ask good questions?
How are you able to think on your feet? Can you strategize? Are you able to not just shut down? Can you actually hold a conversation if you don't know what you're talking about?
Yep. So back.
The skill of BSing through
There you
a
go.
conversation.
Exactly.
real
Can you
thing.
just have
Sales.
can you just have a conversation?
Yeah, it's just another word for sales.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Fake until you make it. And so obviously this young lady, she basically crashed and burned, you know. And what we do is we do a role play exercise. She got stumbled. She couldn't. She basically, you could tell, and there was like frustration there. So I already know that, like, well, if you talk to a lead and you get frustrated this easy, what's going to look like on a day-to-day basis, right? So I saw her get frustrated. So we stopped, and I gave her some pointers, right? We want to see if there's, you know, are you coachable, right? So did it again, same thing, shut down, got frustrated, and I said, hey, all right, appreciate your time, and we let them go about their way, and then we sent them a nice little decline letter or email, and that's where we've really been able to filter a lot of people out.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Let's talk about when they come onto the team. I'm curious how I kind of think I already know how you're going to respond to this question, which says something about you and your level of consistency.
Oh, I appreciate
with
it.
what you do. But I'm curious, how long does it take once somebody's on the team to know if they're going to make it or not?
How long does it take to be on the team for us to know if they're going to make it or not? How long what do you think my answer is going to be?
2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good chunk. I would say more of like a week.
Yeah.
Even faster than I thought.
Well, because we see how they're going to respond to the training. We see how they respond to making their first calls and stumbling and failing forward, and all that happens within the first week. And so you're really able to see pretty quickly. But we've been, one thing he didn't mention though too is when we are hiring, we've made a rule because, you know, learning and failing forward. If it's a maybe, it's a no.
That's where
Too many times that we were like, well, they had faults. I could see that this would be a struggle, but you know what? They had this thing, and maybe it could work.
Let's try it out.
Every single maybe is not here anymore. Because those things you talk about too is like when you're interviewing, that's supposed to be your best, like more than your best. And if your best is already here, your average is even going to be down here. And so we learned very quickly, like we would all sit there, and if any of us that were in the role play, 'cause sometimes we'll pull in one of the acquisitions or one of the dispo, and if any of us are like, no, just no. Yeah. We're trying to retain people. We don't, it's a lot to onboard somebody and go through all of this. And so we really are trying to be very selective to also protect our culture.
Yeah.
What about you?
How long does it take for me? It's tough. I've been amazed in the real estate industry at how fast people will fire people. I don't know if it's a company difference or an industry difference, but we're definitely slower to fire. It takes a little bit longer, like, to train. Like, for example, an account manager on my side, it takes like 3 months to train.
Wow.
So it's kind of hard, but it depends on what you're talking about, right? It's just like people would say ask me all the time, like, how long does it take to know if a marketing campaign works? Well, I know it doesn't work if it's been 2 weeks and I have 0 leads. But if we're talking about ROI, it's like 6 months probably.
Yeah.
Right, because you know different things at different points. I have a lot of confidence in a higher funnel metric really quickly, but it takes me a long time to get confidence on low funnel metrics. It's the same thing with hiring. Like, you see attitude, how they respond to feedback, those kinds of things, you could see right away.
Yeah.
Things like performance could take a little bit longer if you need a bigger sample size or not. Have you seen from people that you've hired in acquisitions, have you seen that they improve their performance a lot over time? Or is it kind of like they just, like, whatever their close rate is in the first month is just their close rate forever?
It goes up. It should always go up.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I know we're probably going to talk about this, but what as a sale, and I think the reason why the firing might be a little bit quicker, and I already told you this, I haven't fired somebody in months because of
It's more the quitting. And I've been there. I had someone start and quit after their first day. And
I'm sorry, our turnover is not that bad either. And what I'm saying is that when I have had to, to be honest, like I said, we've hired 2 dispo people that are with us. We hired, like I said, an acquisition, like I said, probably 2 people. We've had 2 turnovers in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been that bad. Actually, like I said, we've
It's
learned.
normal that like every other sales hire will work out. It's like seems to be pretty normal.
Well,
Like,
and,
you
like,
hire
so-
2 people to get one
Yeah.
that like sticks around.
So let's go back to why in our industry it might be a little quicker. It's because it's sales, right?
Yeah.
It's not just if I needed somebody to come on here and fill out some
Be an admin
forms and be an admin person, yeah, they might stick around a little bit longer. But if right off the bat that you can't handle working with the technology, you're not obviously you don't know how to talk to somebody, just have a regular normal conversation. You're not able to be coachable. It's so easy to catch those things early on. You know what I mean? So it's a lot different. That's why in our industry you can fire a little quicker. But again,
Or if they're not revenue producing, then you've
sure.
got to part ways. And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
and you got to ask too. You
Fair
got to
enough.
ask yourself, how in our industry, what do we pay? What do we pay? And what does that look like? How much should they be bringing in, right? So for the first 3 months, we do $3,000 a month, and what we do is it's a draw. So if they could come in swinging, one of our acquisition people that are with us today, he in the first 2 weeks he got like a $70K deal, $70K rep. It made him a good chunk of change. So the next month I don't need to give him that $3,000 because it was a draw. So he got the commission rather than the $3,000, right? We guarantee that because what we want to see is as you're going through the CRM, you're building your pipe, and as new leads come in, you're building your pipe. So as you build your pipe, they start they start becoming deals as you go do your follow-up, right? So but in the first month, your pipe's gonna be super small, so you're not gonna have this consistent deal flow. So you want to give them a little bit of change so they can still pay their bills and stuff. But after 3 months, it is commission only, and that's something we do talk about in our onboarding process. Why do you want a commission only job, right? Because obviously with commission plus base is usually it's a base but a low percentage. With commission only, you get a higher percentage. So if you are confident in your sales skills, that commission should pay you a lot more than a base plus commission.
Yeah.
So again, that's another reason why we want commission only people, because we know they're more confident in their sales skills. Generally, that should be the concept.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't want to talk too much.
No, this is all crazy good information. So lots of screening of applicants, pre-screen. You watch those pre-screens, which is sort of a unique process. I don't think I've heard of that exact process.
Well,
where,
he was doing the pre-screens initially, and it was just a first interview with Aaron and then a shadow day, but he would sit in there all day and it'd be no show. And so he's not getting anything else
it's not
done.
a great use of time.
No, not for the CEO.
Especially when you can watch them at 2x speed
Right.
after.
Yeah.
So that's when we switched it up and then made it to where, somebody else is going through that, just because there's just the same 3 answers.
Yeah.
And you could tell a lot within those. Even one of the questions is, are you aware it's a commission only job, and are you okay with that? And then, if they say yes or no. If they say no, cool, not even wasting our time on the second interview. But it knocks a lot of that out of the way to make his time more useful.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And you're looking exclusively local here to bring people in office.
We're not. Yeah, we want everybody in office. They got to be able to be willing to come in the office every day.
Fair enough. What's the reason you decided to do that?
Culture, monitoring, training. You could train them a lot better, a lot faster, and the culture is just there. It's just like
Speed of information being shared.
that too, yeah. It was just like when we first started out, right? We had our office at our house, and you're trying to get some work done, but then you realize the floor needs to be swept, right? Or something needs to be cleaned or whatever, right? So it's like, I get it. Some positions that might work as a sales position. I don't think so. I know you have some virtual people that obviously are crushing it, but for us in this company, I've just seen the virtual thing not work as good as they were in house.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And if that's the kind of culture you want,
Yeah.
then that's the kind of culture you want. Myself, I've done, I've always appreciated an in-person culture. I like the flexibility of virtual too.
For sure.
That's why I do hybrid.
Yeah.
But we considered at one point going to 100% virtual. And yeah, basically a couple of people in the company were just saying look, people would like this, and we would have less expenses and all these different things. It looks good. And then I just thought, but I don't want to work at a company that's 100% virtual.
There you go.
And I want to build a company that I want to work at. So we're just not going to do it.
That's awesome.
And sometimes, why do you build a business anyway?
Right.
If you want to come into an office full of people that you work with on your team and you collaborate with and you enjoy that, then why build something that doesn't fulfill the vision that you have just because it's the same way that you could build the financial freedom you're looking for, but it doesn't build the whole vision.
Yeah.
Then why, when you can do anything, why do that thing?
Yeah.
Right.
So anyways, I respect what you're doing is what I'm saying. And,
Yeah, for sure.
and it makes sense to me. If that's what you want. I know people that love a virtual company and run fully virtual companies
Yeah.
and do it really well.
And to each their own. I mean, that's for us. We personally just didn't really like it. We see a better culture when everyone's here. Everyone vibes well. You know, when one person gets a contract, it hypes up the whole team, and it's just what we wanted to build. There's people that make it work virtual, and good for them. It just for us, like you said, it's our business. We wanted something that we wanted to build something that we liked, and this is what we like.
Yeah.
I think it also comes down to the type of business it is, right? Like a full-on sales business. I mean, for us, like, I mean, you're constantly talking. I don't know too many people who have a virtual team, like besides a couple of VAs, and like, yeah, it still works, but yeah, we've had, you know, when people have to go home or like try to work from home or whatever, numbers plummet.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, that's super interesting.
Well, and everyone's here and can help each other. They can hear the call and they can strategize, bounce ideas off each other. Like, hey, I'm getting stuck right here. Well, if you're at home, your message is just going through Slack, waiting for somebody to see it, then getting an answer. It's not an instant answer. And so there's more collaboration. Everyone's helping each other. I've heard it before. Somebody gets off the phone and somebody else jumps in and was like, hey, that sounds super rough. But hey, I think I heard what you were saying. Let's try this. Or did you look at that? Or like, it's a whole collaboration of everyone trying to help each other get the contract. That's one thing that I think we've really loved, and we've heard people that have started with us say is everyone's helping each other even though it's not benefiting them because they know it's benefiting the
Teamwork.
group,
Yeah.
because they've come from situations where everyone was stabbing each other in the back. They didn't want them to get the contract because then they would look bad. And here we've had that culture that it's not about that. It's about everyone collaboratively, you know, building the entire company.
How would you describe the culture of the company 1 year ago?
Part-time.
Yeah, it was so. I think that's a great question because what we did is we could talk about time, and my wife just said part-time. So we wanted to build a business because we wanted to leave literally in the afternoon and go spend time with our children. So what we were doing is we had people come in the office from 9 to 2, and I had 2 mentors at the time. Just said that's stupid, and basically.
So all your team did that. Like
Yeah.
the entire company worked part-time.
Yeah. Well,
we thought
to us it wasn't part time. To us that was.
Because we were still working. And then we were like, well, they're going to work from home.
Yeah, that's another reason why we wanted an office, right? So we so we wanted to hit these numbers, and we had a mentor that said, you need to change that. You know what I mean? And gosh, there was a great analogy that he said. But anyways, he basically just said you have a part-time business. You're not going to hit the numbers that you would like to hit. So anyways, we had a massive change, and even people left. You know, so when you make changes to a company like that, not everybody's going to be fully on board, and that's okay.
Started implementing a lot more accountability, a lot more reports, and the people that were not producing found themselves leaving, and the culture pushed them out.
Fair enough. So I'm trying to think of how to ask this question. I feel like figuring out how to build a good culture, it's like how do you be happy? It's like one of those questions where it's like, is there really an answer to that? Like, but of course there are, and like some people figure it out on a really high level, and others really struggle. But it's hard to differentiate, you know, what is what works well from what doesn't. What would you say if you were to like sum up the biggest thing that has contributed to the positive aspects of your culture in the company today? Purpose. So there was a book I read. It was called Teamwork by Natalie Dawson, and you know a lot of people talk about mission statement, core values, vision statement, right? People talk about it. People throw it on their walls, whatever, right? But nobody actually lives by it, thinks about it every single day, right? Another thing that she mentions in there is you need to make that stuff super short, right to the point, impactful. And so my mission statement's about a sentence long. We impact real estate journeys with excellence, ethics, and lasting relationships. We have a set of core values, and we have a vision statement. And what that does is even in the first week, I want my new people to memorize it. So I'll come to their desk. Hey, what is our mission statement?
what are 3 core values that we have? So that really, and again, it goes back into that people analyzer that you get from the book Traction, right? And also, like I said, when you embody that, like I said, even with the core value teamwork, when everybody's helping each other out, when there is goals to be had, and then also if you want to talk about what is culture, it's standards, right? Yeah. I think it's also, I think it's a culture of excellence, standards, really looking into what is each person's deeper why, as we talked about earlier. So I think that's something, because again, anyways, I was going to go down a different road, but that's kind of how I see culture.
Okay. So it's clarity on those things. Clarity. But then you made them like a regular piece of the office environment, and people are embodying them. At what point would you say I'm sure you're still thinking you're figuring that out, but
yeah,
like, was it like you read the book and it clicked, or did it take some time, or did you have some like fumblings along the way trying to get that to stick?
No. As soon as I read it, I implemented it. That was something I was like, oh yeah, we need this. Like I implement stuff. If I have like this conviction over something I read, I have a short video on my Instagram that where I think I'm like videotaping me and I'm looking at my wife, and I was like, the problem, well, my wife seems to have a problem with it, she doesn't, but is when I read a book.
When he reads a book, I know he's going to be implementing something.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
But he takes action. I mean, I wouldn't say everything. There's definitely there's certain things, like you said, if you feel some type of way about what you read, and it's like that is going to benefit my business, he's very quick to implement it. There is no thinking on it, and maybe we should do this, maybe we shouldn't. It's done.
Decisive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I see that.
Yeah.
As it is with all great leaders, there's kind of no surprises.
For sure. Yeah.
You get what you get.
He's a true visionary.
Yeah, it's like very, very, very clear. Like I could have told you that's how you act before you even said that, because I know you, and you're consistent.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is consistency, right? One thing that you need to figure out, obviously, with every single marketing channel is be consistent. Like I literally have, because I know we're talking about PPC, but with direct mail that we're going to be implementing next year, is we were doing we always did direct mail, but it was always like off and on, probably like a lot of your clients, right? Off and on. And
more often than it should be.
Yeah. And what we've seen in direct mail, we've always seen an amazing return, but we were never consistent with it. So I said this year is going to be consistent. I already have everything's planned out from January to December, what direct mail and how much is going out, how much is being spent, and that's the same thing we're doing with PPC. So everything's planned out for next year. So, and then also I got a big word on top of direct mail. She is consistency.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'm guessing you didn't have a plan like that for this year.
No. As you know.
So you're leveling up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, totally fair. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just going to ask any other like takeaways and culture.
I was going to ask you, how do you build your culture?
Well. If we're being really honest, you're probably better at it than I am. So wrong person to ask. Like we each have our own strengths.
For sure.
And for me, leadership has been one of the hardest things to learn in my business. Like came the least naturally to me. For some people, it's easy, and it just happens naturally. Also, I did find culture way easier when you don't have as many layers in the company. Where culture became really hard for me is where I might manage somebody that manages somebody else that manages somebody else. And we're not overall like vertical as a company, but see, my COO reports to me, and then he manages department heads, and then those department heads manage people within their departments. So there can be a few layers there. Yeah. And for me, it's been you start to realize how you're almost like ahead of it with your team size right now, like getting a lot of clarity around the purpose and the vision and things like that. What I noticed happened for me is when it was a small team and everybody was close to me, then they naturally kind of inherited my values because they were just right there with me, and they naturally inherited the way that I would go about things in different circumstances because just through osmosis it happens. And then if you create that distance, then you start to realize that's not happening. Then you notice that one day, and then you walk into your company and you're like, I don't feel like I belong in this place. But it's supposed to be like a mere reflection of who I am. So anyways, the biggest things for me, we've started doing monthly culture meetings.
Okay.
Which has been big, where we have I could show you the whole agenda we go through.
For sure.
Like we talk about like big announcements, how we're tracking towards our yearly goals. It's supposed to be like really positive stuff. We talk
Nice.
about like wins, like I'll share something that inspired me during the month, and then different people will
There you
share
go.
things that inspire them, and I'll talk about something, somebody I want to recognize, and then everybody else will recognize other people on their team. And then we go over our core values and, you know, a story about the core values and things like that,
Nice.
just as like a constant thing to
What's your favorite core value?
be a truth warrior.
Be a truth warrior. Nice.
That's my favorite.
I like
And
that.
and if it's true, then you should see that in me.
Yeah.
In everything
Yeah.
I do. It's
It
an
is.
element of integrity,
Yeah.
and like you always want to do the right thing with people when you're dealing with them. There's also an element there of logic and reasoning and being data driven,
Yeah.
which is so much of the mission of like what we do
Yeah.
at Bateman Collective, and the behavior we try to inspire like in our team and all of our clients is making more quality decisions by looking at facts. And so you should feel that, like when you listen to our podcast, you should feel it like that's the undertone. You should
Yeah.
feel that when you talk to your account manager working with us, you should feel it like that's what they're inspiring you to do,
Yeah.
is be more that way. And it's a huge one for me. Like that's the one where like if you act illogically, I will very illogically be very upset with you. Like, that's how you know something's like a core value for me. It's like
I couldn't agree with you
Yeah.
more. I definitely see that in your company, and the person I get to talk to all the time is Jeff. You know, definitely Truth Warrior is something that definitely embodies Bateman Collective.
Yeah. Well, what it means for me is like I think a lot of people think of integrity or honesty as being
Right.
something like passive. Like it's not doing the wrong thing.
Right, that's
but
true.
what this means for me is that it's like it's an active thing. Like being reasonable, using logic, using data,
Yeah.
treating other people right isn't just about not wronging them. It's about going above and beyond and fighting every day to act that way. And yeah, so anyways, that's where you'll see that. You should see that like everything from our sales team when they're talking to people, they're not just like, hey, you're going to get all these great results. They're
Yeah.
like, I'm going to be really honest with you. The results vary here. This is
Yeah.
what it looks like. Because not only are we just like not trying to say something that's a lie, we're also trying to make sure that we're completely on the same page with people. And then you'll see that with Jeff that you work with and throughout the whole company. But yeah, we all have our own things and we attract people based on them for sure.
As you build up leaders in your company, how are you really training and nurturing their leadership in your company?
This is something that's a really hard thing to do to lead leaders.
For sure, but you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Technically.
So it's like, so how are you doing it?
Technically. Well, what I noticed is, if I'm looking at this really objectively, I've improved a ton as a leader over the past like year or so.
Nice.
I'm not at all where I want to be, but I've improved a ton. As I've improved, I've learned to notice quality leadership skills in other people more so than I did before. Because, you know, it kind of like if you don't, for example, if you're trying to see if somebody's a good salesperson or not, and you don't know sales, you're not going to be great at that. It's the
True.
same thing for like evaluating people for leadership. So for me, that's a really big thing. And probably the biggest one there is now I have a COO that manages all the department heads, and he's a really good leader.
That's awesome. How did you find him in your recruiting process?
You know what? He applied through a job ad.
And where was that job ad?
We put out our job ads through Bamboo HR, and then they just go until like it goes on Indeed, but it also goes like a bunch of other places.
Like I said, I have Bamboo HR. I need to go look into that. You know, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, so you
There
just
go.
post it one place and it goes everywhere.
There you go.
So I don't know which one it came from, but what I know is that he applied for a different position, and I talked to him and I was like, "You are so bad for this position, but you are a genius."
Yeah.
And I literally made him a position in the company that didn't exist before I talked to him. So I was like, we really, really need you. And of course I vetted it out a lot more.
For
And,
sure.
like, basically just said, like, here's the company, tell me the problems. And he came, told me the problems.
Wow.
And was able to fix a lot of things. So he wasn't originally like a COO. He was more of like an
He worked his way
operations
up.
manager. He built like systems and stuff like that.
Dang.
And then, you know, Sharper.
Yep.
Or you probably.
Gary,
discussed- Yeah, Gary Harper, not Sharper. And
But it's Sharper Image, right? It's Sharper or something, right?
Sharper.
Or is it Harper?
I don't know.
We
I
know
don't know
the
if Sharper and Harper are related. You just throw an S in
Probably
there.
not.
I don't know why they do what they do.
but yes, we know who you're.
Yeah, so we use them to like guide our like quarterly planning meetings and stuff like that. And yeah, so the first one they came, we had Austin McCurdy, who's the COO over there, come to our thing. He just said like, well, this is how we're changing the org chart. We're putting this person here, and we're going to move you here. And I said that's extremely terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it was just like he was taking a lot of stuff off my plate that I was kind of like clinging on to, and it's been amazing.
Wow.
Since then, so I just needed somebody to like
take over.
I always felt like it would reflect poorly on me because like basically what he did is he just took all the responsibility off my plate and put it onto someone else's plate, and then that person reports to me. It doesn't mean I don't do anything. It just means ultimately everything, like there's no thing in the company right now that I'm accountable to. So that means I could leave for any amount of time, and like the business would still go on without the need for my involvement, which felt like a scary thing because I'm like, we all feel this like need to be needed.
I want to be wanted.
in the business, and I have lack of like trust with certain people, and that's like one of my hardest things to get over in leadership is being able to actually trust people.
For sure.
I have a hard time with that.
I'm sure maybe it's come back from maybe your early years upcoming business where maybe some bad employees, I mean is that where that non-trust comes? Because obviously that's what we experienced in the very early years, bad hires and stuff like that. And obviously now one of your core values is be a truth warrior. Is that where that comes from? Like I have an issue with trust, so now I want to make sure that my core value that I'm trying to embody, again, this business reflecting me, I want everybody here to not just tell the truth to me, but obviously to our clients as well.
Yeah, there's an element of that for sure. It's like lack of trust comes, like I had all the trust in people until I hired them and they failed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't trust people anymore.
For
and
sure.
even good people, like I have trust issues on a level that like even some of the best A players, I have a hard time trusting.
For sure.
Because I find like one thing they drop the ball on one time. You know how it is. Like
I know exactly.
And I have a hard time trusting them again.
Yeah.
After those kinds of things. So like that's sort of me on a.
How do you keep your people accountable in your company? I don't know. We kind of talked a little about how we do that. How do you guys do that?
Accountability comes down to okay, so there's like where we are and then where we're going always.
For sure.
There's like a difference. And some of this is better worked out in some departments than others. Accountability at the beginning was sort of like, hey, I told you to do this. And then now I'm like following up after a week like, hey, did you do that?
Yeah.
And that was like sporadic, ineffective, didn't have priorities straight. So where we're at with a lot of things right now, and we'll be there shortly with everything, is sort of like accountability's natural. It's baked into automated dashboards.
There you go.
Things are automatically tracked. So it's not that I'm holding you accountable. It's like the accountability's
numbers
there.
are numbers.
The system holds you accountable.
Exactly.
Not me. And then we coach like how can we get this better
And that's something too that I think we talked about is this book right now. So again, this book, The Multipliers, is.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Have you read
I'm
that
a
one?
diminisher. Yeah. So like every diminishing quality he talks about in there, I'm like, oh, me. I also believe that you can't say that kind of thing and then also get better. So like that's the old me as of today.
There you go.
I'm better. But those are definitely
acceptance.
the issues I've had in the past, like all of those things. Yeah.
Well, when you say, because you say that the dashboards are going to be holding them accountable, and that's something we found in our company too. Is like I felt like early on, right? We got these things that we wanted to hold on to that we might feel like we were micromanaging a little bit, but then you realize that's not going to be the case, right? You need to be able to be that multiplier to extract their genius out of it. And you can see actually some of my diminisher qualities are up there, right? And I wanted to make sure, so totally. Idea fountain, always on, rescuer. So I immediately, like we said earlier about books, right? I immediately, so for example, like the rescuer, somebody came to my office. One of our people. Anyway, so we come to my office. Obviously, it's the 131, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got your one issue.
Dan Martell's.
Yeah.
I think that's buy back your time.
Get one issue. What are your three solutions? Pick that solution, and I'm probably just going to agree with you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So instead of me giving the answer, you need to come to me with a solution already, and then I'm probably just going to back you up and go do it, right? Because one thing we realize is that what we do, it brings results, but I want to make sure you come up with the answers first, because that's one of our core values, is being resourceful. Can you be resourceful to find the answer? And then what we realize too is that what we think too is that we gotta be on the sales floor all the time, right? What you gotta do, and again, this is gonna lead to the dashboards, because we have Plecto and everything, and we got our EOD reports, we got our stoplight reports, we got our scorecards, right? So you got all these reports. Why do I need to be out there to see if you're doing your job, right? Because in the end, we're gonna see them anyways. Right. So what I want to do is because you and I, we probably hate being micromanaged. So I'm not going to go micromanage you, right? I'm going to, but
good way to get all the worst people in your company to stay and all the best people to leave.
100%, 100%. So, anyways, I think it's a great way if you want to be a multiplier, is to set those dashboards up, those spreadsheets up, so that the genius, right, that we're hiring, also could be the genius in your company by obviously looking at their numbers, because players like accountability. They don't like you breathing down their necks. They like to be able to thrive without you obviously breathing down their necks. So
yeah, I'm 100% with you, and I wholeheartedly agree. And it's just it's a factor of just
it's a skill you got to learn. Like,
and some people they just have a knack for it naturally, and other people just don't. And I was just one of those people where like. A book that I just read that's really good is called what is it called? Leadership and Self-Deception. Have you read that one?
No, I'm gonna have to go get it.
It's a really good book, and it's of course, like any book, you can't explain it in like 10 seconds.
Right.
But my tendency as a leader is definitely to look at what's happening and say, this is because I'm good and everybody else around me is failing. Yeah. That's what's going on here. Like, I told this person to do this thing, they didn't do that thing. That's their fault, right? And it's really hard to look in the mirror and say that you're the problem. And that's the reason that things aren't the way that you want them to be. And basically what the book's about is how so often the problems that we're trying to fix by the behaviors that we have, the way that we do those behaviors actually breeds more of that same problem. Like an example could be like, if I believe that you didn't get this thing done and I believe that you're not a reliable person, then now I'm going to treat you like an unreliable person.
For sure.
And then you're going to act like an unreliable person because I'm treating you like an unreliable person. And it just begets more and more of that same behavior that we started with. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's, so it's about like seeing people as people and, starting with like leading yourself well, and all those things. So there's a lot to unpack there, but like that's the biggest thing for me is I'm a much better fault finder, and I assume if I can find faults, then I've done my job, and
obviously that's a good tendency when it comes to PPC, right?
It
really is, right? But when it comes to people, I wouldn't single you out too much, because I feel like that is a lot of people's tendencies if they ever want to start their company, right? So it's like you're not alone on that. Like I said, I had diminisher tendencies, or I would call you even an accidental diminisher, right?
Thank you, that's generous.
You're welcome. And but you're absolutely right. Like, that is a skill that, again, if we're talking about why you're here in the company that you have built, it's why it has become such a success, because you've been able to find the faults in the algorithms and the way you're building things out to make our campaigns so well. So.
Yeah, there's a skill that goes along with everything. But it's just one of those things where, like, I don't know, I've noticed that like a lot of the time when I've thought I've had the biggest problems in business, in a PPC campaign, in sales, it's because the thing that you think your problem is not actually the problem. Just like we talked about before, how like in sales, you're not allowed to say that the leads aren't good. Why are you not allowed to say that the leads aren't good?
Yeah.
Because more often than not, that's a false problem. And if you spend all your time and energy trying to fix the problem that's not actually the problem, then that's why you feel like you have problems that you can't work beyond, or you think that people aren't reliable, when the problem is that you're not the kind of leader that attracts and retains reliable people. Or you within a PPC campaign, I see people where like their cost per lead goes up, and then to fix it, they start changing a bunch of stuff in the account that has nothing to do with that, or something like that. And that's why we try to like be like really data driven, really honed in for our clients to make like the right kind of changes, because otherwise you just run in circles. And I've certainly noticed it's so interesting that it seems like you've overcome this, but a lot of people that are like you're definitely like a quick start person. Like, the idea, like, I read this book, like, okay, like, I read the book at 9 a.m. At 11 a.m. we've changed our company policy. That's
9:10.
At 10 a.m.
9:10.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I'm learning too is idea fountain.
Yeah.
So, you know that, right? I make sure I
He
tell
dumps
her.
on me. Yeah, he does the idea dump on me instead of going out there because you think that you want to share this with your team, and then like when you look back, it's like it's just going to confuse them.
Sorry.
Yeah, and then the thing is, like, my team doesn't receive my ideas well. When really, what's the problem? You're too many ideas, and it's hard to like recognize that in yourself. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of people like with that, like real estate's full of those people, and I think the reason is like urgency is like so important to get deals across the finish line.
Yeah.
So what happens is you have these like, you have like 1,000 people start out in real estate businesses, and then like 900 of them fail. And then the 100 that succeeded, it's because they're like urgent, they're solving problems really fast, they're making changes, they're working with sellers, working with buyers, like making things get across the finish line.
Sounds about right.
And then they become leaders. And it's just like, like they're so quick to make the wrong judgment a lot of the time, or they blame things on the wrong thing, or they're trying to run a PPC campaign, and like the way they've solved all the problems in their business until that point is like, oh, I'll just change a bunch of stuff, like do a bunch of action, because they have this bias towards action, and that works some things, and then in other things it doesn't work at all. And and it's funny because it seems like the further along I make it in business, the more you learn that like the right answer so often is just to do nothing. And that's how you like make it farther. Like you got to stop killing things before they like succeed.
For sure.
So
wouldn't you say that that's just a normal entrepreneur mindset though? Is urgency, solving problems, making quick
very
decisions.
normal. Yeah, very normal.
One thing that I heard Alex Hormozy actually recently say, and it's funny because when it talks about consistency and that delayed gratification, this is something that I think everybody should listen to. So we put something in place to obviously get that cash conversion cycle, get that money. So obviously if I set a PPC campaign for $10,000, $20,000, whatever it might be, you're telling your clients, hey, I need you to make sure you have 6 months of runway, right? The issue is people want that 6 months to be the next day, right? So what Alex Hormozy talks about is, so set it in place, because obviously to become wealthy, it does take time. Now you need to figure out, what am I going to do in that time frame to get my return? So you can start working on your leadership. You can start working on closing the deals that are in your pipe, right? You can start working on building your culture.
Doing productive things.
Exactly.
You're just not screwing up your PPC campaign.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that goes obviously for anything.
Yeah.
So anything you put in place, what are you doing do something in the meantime so your hands are not just sitting idle, because we all know that the visionary, you and I, you know, obviously, they literally talk about that in the book Traction, where it's like the integrator is the one that says, you know, stop, stay still, right? So so what I'm always trying to do is I'm always trying to figure out something to do in the meantime, right? So what I like to do is I like to read books, go to the gym, do something else. And that's why a lot of people, I think, go into like coaching and stuff like that, because they're trying to figure out, like, what should I do now? What are other ways I can make money and capitalize on what's going on in this industry? So
yeah, no, I totally agree. It's been awesome to get an idea into like the window of what you guys are doing from a leadership standpoint and everything like that. I could tell you, like, if you're going to hit your goals for next year, it's going to be a lot more doubling down on that and a lot less doubling down on everything else. Which is totally natural and normal for where the business is at right now. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And that's super cool. Thanks for sharing everything about the process.
Thank you, brother. Thanks again for stopping by and digging deep and talking to our team. It really obviously lifted up the morale.
Yeah.